restart recording so that I don't forget to do that much. All right then. So let's see. Let me get into lecture 3. So I have one set of question slides over the material that I recorded offline on slide 52. Do we want to do the whiteboard thing or do we want to just talk? Because some of these are like provide an example, which it sort of like implies more words than is easy to type into a whiteboard. Can we try talking? Or pasting into the chat if you don't want to talk or you can't? Okay, let's do that. So the backing up here, what is this unit about? It is about when you want to examine the relationship between two variables, but that relationship takes more than one fixed slope to capture the full effect. So as a couple examples of this, when you have a categorical predictor, so a grouping variable of some kind that has more than two categories, it requires creating new 0-1 versions to separate each group's mean from another group's mean. And you need as many fixed effects as you have categories, so one intercept and then c minus 1 for number of category slopes. So that's one instance. That would be considered like a one-way ANOVA, is the traditional language that goes with that. Another, which is the part that we talked about towards the end of class and then the videos finished up, is the idea of a predictor that is quantitative, so it's numeric in some form, but it doesn't just have a straight linear relationship, or you don't want that. So quadratic is one way to introduce a bendy line, as I like to call it, a nonlinear trend of how that variable relates to an outcome. Log transforming it to create an exponential curve does the same thing with only one slope, but you can add quadratics to change the angle of the bend, so to speak. And then also piecewise slopes. So those are the things. Does that sound familiar? Trying to get our heads back into this sort of space. I know it doesn't happen instantly. So this one then is about the nonlinear trends section. So first one here. For what kind of patterns would a quadratic slope be useful? Like when would you do this in life? Your research life. To be clear, not at Myrtle Beach. Okay, everyone's shy. Do we want to type in the whiteboard instead?
I have an example, but it's not from my research life.
It can be from anything. Go for it.
I um I said coffee intake and focus.
Oh, good one. Tell me about that.
Just enough coffee or too little coffee, not so much focus. Enough coffee, good focus. Too much coffee, declined focus because of the uh anxiety,
Yeah, the jitters start
the
creeping
jitter.
in.
Yeah.
Yep. That is a great example. Yeah, too much is sometimes too much. Yeah, I like that one. More generally, when patterns change direction. Oh, okay, so we have an educational example. Do you want to share that one, Mary? When seniors in high school tend to lose interest at the end of their school year?
Yeah, so I see that they want to do something at the beginning of the year in September and through December, and then when they start getting the acceptance in some of the schools, they just don't want to do the work. And I just got to learn that it's called senioritis, and I got some students who already started the year with being so high on that level. If I wanted to give it from 1 to 10 as a scale for senioritis, they're at 10 already since September. But overall, the seniors that I teach, they just start to lose uh, interest in math, at least I can say. Especially now, they just don't want to do the work. They already got accepted in schools and all that.
Yeah, I hate to break it to you, but I think it's going to get even worse after spring break. Like then you hit the terminal
Yes.
decline of interest and engagement.
Yeah, that's gonna be not only for seniors.
Yeah, it's a real thing. It happened to me in college. Like once I knew I was accepted to grad school and I just had to finish out like my required courses, I was maybe not as diligent as I could have been at that point in doing so. So I hear that. Another great real life example, but that could actually be the focus of research too. If you were to administer self-report measures and or observational measures of interest and engagement. Like you could actually demonstrate that empirically if you had the interest. So life and research can blend. Yeah, slopes that change directions. Yeah, that's sort of the general idea here. Time spent with people throughout time. Can you tell me about that?
So I was thinking like children or coworkers, so like you're not spending any time with them before they're around your life, and it kind of peaks pretty quickly, increases quickly, and then over time, coworkers, you eventually retire or leave your job and it goes down, or children don't want to be around you as much, and that gradually goes down.
Yeah, that sounds good to me too. You guys have some really good examples of this. Thank you. Age versus healthcare. Oh, yes. Tell me about that.
Well, when you're born, that's very expensive. And like all the other baby doctor's appointments, and then you like kind of even out and you go maybe once, twice a year for your regular checkup. And then as you tend to get older, you tend to have more health problems coming up and it starts to go back up again.
Yes, indeed. That's probably even like a cubic trend. So we didn't talk about that one, but that would be x to the third power. It creates a line that changes direction twice. So like you can go down and then come back up again. So as you get older and you start talking about maybe memory care, nursing homes, like that kind of thing, then yeah, it's going to escalate again. At least in the U.S. under our current our medical systems and whatnot. Yeah, these are good examples. Thank you. Any others that you want to share? So those are some good ones. Number 2, how about a linear slope of log x? So that's the one that mimics a curve that's known as exponential, where it kind of like levels off. There's a term for that, hits asymptote. Now, there are more formal nonlinear models in which it is truly exponential, but this is sort of like a hack that you can use in standard linear models to make a curve that levels off. So do you have any examples that you can think of for that kind?
Can I just unmute and say, okay, so I thought of teachers. So when we're studying in college to become teachers, we're studying like a lot of um, courses so that we can get to the theory and examples and all that. And then when we start working, it's just like it can be down to just one workshop a year if the school provides it.
Gotcha. Yeah, that is quite a big difference in terms of training and continuing education. Yeah, I like it. Let's see, age and recidivism. What context is this in?
Criminal justice context, recidivism as in rearrest. So the older you get, the less likely you are to recidivate. And so it's
Like one of those?
like that.
Yeah. Some things are just easier with the hand
One of
signals.
those. Yeah.
Yeah. See, and this is where the folks on YouTube are really missing out because they can't see this helpful thing. So this is your tuition dollars at work. There we go. Yeah, that I didn't know about that, but that makes sense, at least for a layperson's perspective. Time spent on TikTok by age. I like that one. You're telling me the olds don't do TikTok? You're kidding me.
No, from what I've read, apparently not. It's the inverse, I guess, for Facebook, though.
Yep. I'm gonna go ahead and speak on behalf of the olds. We live on the Facebook. It's for keeping the rest of our families up to date with pictures of our kids and stuff like that. That way we don't have to talk to them all directly. But also, like all the videos, I'm almost always on my phone with it on silent because I don't want to bother the people who are around me. So the TikTok is lost on me unless it's captioned. But yes, that's another good one. I like it. All right, number 3, patterns for piecewise slopes. So what are they for in general? And then can you think of examples that might use them? Also known as linear splines. You may have heard that term. It's okay to review the slides if you're like, what is she talking about again? It's been a minute. Different patterns through time. The weather in the past 10 days. Yeah, that's a good one. We have a shelf. It changes. We head up. Now we're back down. We're heading back up again towards the end of the week.
You could do the busy time for a restaurant throughout the day, where it increases until the busy, drops down, and then rises again, and then drops until they're closed.
Yep, that's a good one. Traffic would do that as well. Let's see, drop off at the elementary school. Nobody is allowed in the drop off lane until what, 7:30, and then all of a sudden when all the cars are there. Okay, we had a long one here. Predicting slopes based on some kind of intervention that splits the slopes. Exactly. So proficiency or effort, start strong, grades increase, dip down. Once classes get challenging, grades increase after interim, dips again. Yeah. So all of these, basically, the idea is discontinuity. Like, it's not a curve that sort of heads up and it stays in the same place, or it doesn't change directions. It's an abrupt shift. Like there's an event and something happens. And so this sort of leads us into number 4. What do you need to know in order to use these models is like at what point that shift is either expected or happened. And all of the examples that I know for this are from longitudinal research in which time is the variable of interest. So I think I gave this example, multiple baseline studies where you're measuring, say, children in normal classroom behavior, several observations, and during some kind of baseline, you introduce some kind of treatment or change in the processes. Then you have several more observations during that second period. And the question is, did they shift after introducing that change in process? And did the slope potentially shift in terms of how they change over time as well? Another one I can think of, I had a student who was from the business school interested in the repeal of blue laws, and I think it was, I want to say Minnesota, potentially, or North Dakota, someplace up north, where it used to be the case that on Sundays you could not go shopping. And to me, that's insane because I spent every Sunday at the mall, like from the time I was in like 6th grade up to about 11th grade. So the idea that the mall would not be open on a Sunday is nuts. But that was the case. And so he was looking at various economic outcomes and other kinds of like state level processes during the period of time before this happened relative to after this happened. I have another student I was just finishing work on their dissertation with. Hi, Chris, if you're listening. He was studying adoption of SciEd, which is like a science program in the state of Iowa. And he was, because each student was only in one grade once, like he had 5th graders, but he had 5th graders over time kind of thing, 8th graders over time, he was able to look at change in like 8th grade performance before versus after adoption. Even though it wasn't the same kids, it was repeated measures with respect to the school. So things like that. I once had a student who asked me, can I use this to study puberty? And I was like, say more. And he's like, well, you have your pre-puberty and then your development or whatever. And I said, you can use these models if you can tell me what day puberty happened on. Like, where is the break point? And he's like, exactly. So if you're in that kind of situation where you're trying to model a discontinuity, but you don't necessarily know exactly when it happened, then there are models for that, where one of the parameters is the point in time at which the discontinuity happened. So that's known, the break point is known as a knot, like KNOT. And so these are latent knot models if you're interested in that, and I can point you towards other resources if you're in that situation. But terminal decline is one example. It's a common research question in cognitive aging. How, basically, at what point do things sort of start to fall off the rails? And can you look backwards in time and predict it retrospectively so that you can help other folks who are going to be in that same situation? So you don't necessarily know like when dementia started, for instance, but you can see the after effects. And so there are models that can track like when that junction hit if you don't actually have it as an event in your data set due to a change in process or policy. So a lot of this is, not gonna lie to you, I eventually want to teach longitudinal models here, and so I'm setting the stage for that in this discussion. But there are cross-sectional research designs that can use these models as well. For instance, if you give out a screener test and you're told that people after 10 are impaired or some sort of other level, whereas people who are before 10 are fine, like you can have that before and after 10 as part of this piecewise model to ask, like what happens as you move up the scale, and does that change after you hit like the critical region after 10, for example, versus before 10? So I've seen it in those kinds of contexts as well. But not everything has to be a line, even if it's a number that's in the model. That's my final answer, big picture. Okay, questions or comments on any of that? Okay. Then, let me make this go away, make that go away. Do you want to talk about your projects first or example 3 first? So I could go either way on this.
I would like to hear about the projects and what that's
Okay.
going to look like. And
Okay, then let me get something else up for that.